Welcome to the Wilder Talk Show. Today, we are going to talk about starting over and reinventing your life. Have you been pushed out of your job or career because you're too old? Have you gained too much weight and you no longer feel great? Is your life dull or there's something you've always wanted to try but are terrified to do? Do you want to change but you're afraid? Are you starting over after a divorce or a bad breakup? Do you need more money? Or do you simply not know where to begin to change your life, but you want to? I've been there too. I'm Kate Wilder, and I'm the host of the Wilder Talk Show, where we talk about from fear to flourish and everything in between. In this podcast series on reinventing your life, I'm going to show you how far you can go. First, let's identify the 3 types of reinvention, possibly one that you're in now or wanting to start. For the longest time, I thought I had to rely on my clients in my digital marketing company to be successful. It turns out that is the furthest thing from the truth. But it wasn't until I was put out to pasture in my 60s that I tackled what I refer to as a hardcore reinvention with a vengeance and completely revamped my life in just a few short months. I'm not talking about just my career, but a complete overhaul of my health and wellness, happiness, my joy factor, and just about everything else. I'm going to help you identify where you are in this video, and also in this series, I'll take you step by step, including things like conquering your fear, getting courage, what to do next, to reinvent yourself at any age. Let's begin your journey to a new life, starting with this. Eileen, who is a 90-year-old woman. She recently started a YouTube channel, and you know what she's teaching? Tips on stained glass. But that's not her primary message. She reinvented her life at age 73 and then again at age 90. She's been at her stained glass hobby and endeavor for 17 years already. Her inspiring channel encourages old people to get out of their recliner and get a hobby. Step out of your comfort zone, she says. Stop acting like a lazy old person with no muscle strength left, waiting for your health to fail into death. Enjoy your golden years, she teaches. At 90 years old, can you imagine? She's going strong and creating her next chapter. So what is all of our excuse? You're not too old to create a new life or to reinvent your life or some part of your life at any age. Let's start with that premise and eliminate this idea of age from your psyche. And even if you're young, there's something for you too. There are thousands of Eileens out there, and you can become one too. So those of you in your 30s, 40s, or 50s who think someone like me should be put out to pasture and you shouldn't be listened to on YouTube, just wait until you hear some of the adventures from this side of the tracks still going on. I've been doing what many YouTube teachers have been doing for decades, and I finally decided to chime in because there's a lot of juicy stories and fun up ahead. But let's first start with you and imagine your life as a book with blank pages, ready for you to write a compelling new chapter full of plot twists and character development and unexpected adventures. You may be in an early chapter. You may be in the middle. You may be in the third like Eileen in a later chapter. But no matter where you're starting, you're not too young and you're not too old. So let's start with the premise. You already have the only asset that you need to get started with some part of a new life. You have the gift of time. Some people don't. You're alive, and don't pretend these are just words. Be grateful and use your time wisely. After tragically losing 2 siblings, my boyfriend, my dad, all very young, I truly live this philosophy. But too many people act like they still have all the time in the world to try new things and improve their life. But you may be gone in an instant. Have I given it my best shot, really? Or was I lazy and hold more regrets than I wish I had? What perspective do you want to bring to your life change? And are you ready to shift into one of possibilities and joy? And one of discovering yourself in ways you haven't yet imagined. And to use your time proactively, create what your heart most desires, instead of being a victim of circumstance. It's all up to you. It's mostly a shift in perspective, mixed in with courage and fortitude, my 2 favorite things. So to begin tackling reinventing your life, let's first understand what happened and where you are now. First steps always begin with knowing that, and then moving on from that starting point. Would you agree with that? So this leads me to the 3 types of reinvention. Let's just say that these types of reinvention sort of make you that type of reinventor, if you know what I mean. All right. So the first kind I mentioned already, number one, is a hardcore reinventor. This is when you're faced with reinventing yourself because it's forced upon you and is out of your control. You've been thrown a curveball of life out of the blue. You may have no idea what to do next. This change is so big you can hardly get out of bed in the morning. When you're forced to reinvent yourself and your new circumstances, it's time to learn and embrace all that's possible because it's your wake up call. The alarm is going off and the time to snooze is over. There isn't much time to react to this of reinvention, and it almost always comes as a highly unwelcome surprise, right? You've been there. You're forced from a state of security and knowledge into a place of unknowing and insecurity. You may feel discarded, as I did in my situation. You may begin to question your value, your worth, your skills. This can rock the core of your inner being and is extremely uncomfortable. When you're catapulted from comfort to chaos in an instant, and the rug has been pulled out from underneath you, the bed covers feel warmer than ever, don't they? But it's downright frightening. This type of reinvention is by far the most challenging and requires that you reach deep in your soul to not only create a new plan for yourself, but also it forces you to face emotions like shock, grief, sadness, confusion, anxiety. Hardcore reinvention is forced upon you and comes when you least expect it, when you don't want it, when you didn't plan it, when someone else is in control, when it's the least convenient time. But make no mistake about it, when it comes, you know it has arrived. You know it because all holy hell just broke loose in your world and you're spinning out of control. So hardcore reinvention comes when you're close to retirement goals, or you got pushed out of your career by a younger boss, or a family member is very sick, or your husband lost his job, or at a time when your kids need you the most, or your wife has just left you, or when you don't feel well, or when someone close to you has died. It's a time of endings and realizing that your life will not be the same again. So a forced reinvention like this is anything but convenient. It's a time of a dark night of the soul, and you're faced with looking at things about yourself and your fears that you'd rather not. It can be a spiritual awakening. You may be deeply changed by the experience. If you're here right now, you know what this feels like, don't you? The second type of reinvention that I refer to as a bold reinvention. This one is more deliberate. It's intentional decision to overhaul one or more aspects of yourself and your life, or kind of what I like to refer to as a honey badger move. Yeah, he is my mascot, this little guy here. Because there's a high degree of risk attached to this. It has less security on board and requires a high level of courage in the face of high doses of fear. In this type of reinvention, you're making the decisions and calling the shots. Sometimes it's big, sometimes it's just bold. One of my bold reinventions in my 30s, I made the intentional decision to create a new, bold, and scary adventure because I wanted to see how far I could go in life. I wanted to prove to myself I could do this next thing. I sold everything I owned. I sold my home, my business, my boat, and all my personal belongings from my house, except my birds and my books and some clothes. That's a lot of bees, my friend. A lot of bees in there. And then what I did was ordered a custom 40-foot motorhome to travel around the country. And I remember taking delivery on this beast of a motorhome. It was huge. And as it turned out, it was January in Grand Rapids, Michigan, when a blizzard erupted during the 6-hour orientation to this new home on wheels. By the time I had to learn to drive it, the blizzard was raging, and the manager took me to a parking lot to teach me how to drive briefly. I still had a 3-hour drive back to my place in Rochester, Michigan, where I would pack up my birds and belongings and leave soon to go out west. This was all new to me. This motorhome was as long as my house at the time. I did learn to drive it in the snowstorm and try not to take out mailboxes. I was certain that was going to happen. Trying to watch the white lines on the road that I was taught through the snow, I realized how enormous this windshield was. It carried with it a whole new way of viewing the road, let me tell you. There were no cell phones then and no internet. So I did install a satellite telephone system because I was going to be in remote areas of New Mexico, Colorado, California, all these places. And so it was time to leave. I said goodbye to family and friends. I traveled the country alone with birds and just me for almost 4 years. This required daily courage to tackle. As a woman traveling alone, there was a lot involved in this, not to mention, dangers out on the road. I didn't have a gun. I didn't have protection, but I had belief. But I also forgot to mention, embarking on this journey, I'd already sold my first company and started a second one. And I was out destined to create the second business from my motorhome, which I did, creating seminars and retreats across the country. With a workshop I called Manifesting Everything You Want. It was all about living your dream. So I was living my dream to show people how to live their dream. I wrote meditation tapes, accompanying workshops, got booked at universities, and even did campground retreats in Arizona and all over the place. I had workshops I called workshops on wheels. I mean, it was just a really big adventure going coast to coast for all that time. But the reason I did it in my 30s is because I didn't want to wait till I was 60. I might be tired by then. I wanted to live an unconventional life. As it turns out, I am in my 60s now, and I do have the energy of my 30s. So, by the way, I may be embarking on the motorhome adventure once again. This was a bold reinvention. Can you see the difference between a hardcore and a bold reinvention? The point of this video about reinvention is that you cannot have this fun and you can't stretch and grow by playing it safe in life and sitting on the couch. It requires risk, whether it's forced upon you or you choose a different path. That involves failure. That involves success. That involves risk taking. But the thing it also involves? Courage and fortitude. Those are my two favorite things. Both skills that can be developed and learned. I share these stories with you, not to make this about me, but to show you I know what I'm talking about with both hardcore and bold reinvention. Because the level of risk and courage required to do these things all by yourself in life is pretty big. I had no safety nets. There wasn't family to fall back on. There wasn't money to fall back on. So let's just say if a bold reinvention is more than you're thinking about right now, this just shows you, though, you can do whatever your heart's desire. It's not too late. You can come out on top with courage. The processes that I've used to get over fear worked for me over and over again, and they can work for you too. I promise. So, real quick, if you're enjoying this so far, I want to tell you I have a free guide for you to download. The link is in the description. This is going to have show notes from today, but also a series of questions that you can start asking yourself on where you're at, whether you're stuck, whether you need to reinvent yourself, whether you want to, and it's all free. Just download it from the description or my website, wildertalk.com. This now leads me to the third type of reinvention, and that is referred to as a soft reinvention. This type of reinventing your life at any age is one in which it's your decision to change jobs, make a career move, find a new relationship, move to a new city, do something exciting you've never done. But while you have the security to do that, this kind of reinvention is the easiest of all because you either have a spouse at home that could support you while you make a big change, or perhaps you have some money in the bank, or you have a lot of family support, or you've lined up the next best thing while still having your current thing. It's still a form of starting over or reinventing yourself, but by no means does this require the same fortitude and bravery that comes with a hardcore or a bold reinvention. Would you agree? But it does require getting over hurdles like doubt, insecurity, fear, and anxiety. So at the same time, a soft reinvention gives you the opportunity to get out of a situation you no longer enjoy or that no longer resonates with you. This is also a time to learn how you can access your courage reserves because it's easy to be lazy, my friends. It's easy to get complacent and just get by. We all say that life is short, but my belief system says life is too short to do anything you don't enjoy for money. So there are few excuses for those wanting to try a soft reinvention because you have everything you need to change your situation. You just may need clarity and courage. This series is also for you. So what do you want to do first? You can manifest your dreams and goals, but nothing is possible without first trying to make fear and courage, failure and success, a welcome part of your journey, rather than closeted feelings that are confusing and holding you back. We don't need that stuff, especially in times of hardcore reinvention and certainly in times of bold and soft reinvention of your life. At this point of the video, you might be wondering, what are the first steps you can take to figure out how to get unstuck and out of resistance? Because most likely you feel that, no matter what type of reinvention you may be in. So just click on the next video or podcast number 2, where I'll go through 6 steps to get you unstuck and into high energy for your very own reinvention. Thanks for watching. I just accomplished one of my reinventions, the fear of doing this podcast. I hope you'll subscribe and follow my journey. I'm Kate Wilder, and I am reinventing myself. See you in the next one.